House Government Operations Committee will come to order, please. Clerk, call roll.
Representatives Bolso, Carr, Chisholm, Clemens, Crawford, Eldridge, Faison, Hakeem, Helton Haynes, Himmer, Johnson, Jones, Kiesling, Kumar, Lafferty, Littleton, Martin, McCalman, Rudder, Vice Chairman Reedy, Chairman Reagan.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, do we have personal orders or announcements? Seeing none, we're going to try to get through our lengthy calendar today. So we'll start on that. By the way, I failed to mention it's 8 April for the House Government Operations Committee. First item on our agenda is House Bill 2097 by Chairman Vaughn. We have a motion and a second. You're recognized, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. I've got an amendment. Well, I guess it's traveling.
It's traveling with it.
All right. Thank you, sir. This bill, basically what has happened in the past is whenever people call into departments and agencies, they can get an opinion, but it's a verbal opinion. And used to in the department or in the Department of Health, when doctors and physicians and nurses would call in or have some type of information request, they would receive a written opinion. What this does is this establishes that departments within DCI will also provide those written opinions upon request. So I, as an engineer, have a situation in my practice that I call and ask for advice or a ruling on, they would issue those and send it to me. We could rely on those much the same way that we do like on the campaign finance and ethics. So it's basically extending that practice across more boards.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? The question's been called on the bill. Without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 2097 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Next item on our agenda is House Bill 2950 being carried by Chairman Kiesling. I'm sorry. I take that back. Chairman Travis is here. You're recognized on your bill, sir. Do I have a motion and a second first?
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman.
Motion and a second. You're recognized.
Yes, sir. Is the amendment code 015019 traveling?
It's traveling with it.
It's traveling with it. Okay, good. This bill is for the liquor by the drink. If an insurance agent like me and Kelly was doing a bond, if somebody needed a $5,000 bond set up, they could get a $10,000 bond for the same price. It comes under a minimum premium. And what this does, it just makes a $10,000 bond, the minimum bond amount for this. That way they don't have to come in and do a new application, send it to the bond company, then send it to the insured, then the insured send it to the Department of Revenue. So it just makes that a $10,000 minimum bond for the bonds. And that's what this does.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, the question's been called. Without objection, we are voting on House Bill sending House Bill 2950 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is House Bill 2712 by Leader Garrett. We have a motion and a second. You're recognized on your bill, sir, and I understand you have an amendment on it.
I do.
Please give us the drafting code.
Is it one that we're going to put on here?
Yes,
Okay.
It's traveling with one already. Is that correct?
Yes, and this, if I can put this amendment on, it will rewrite the bill. So I got the amendment code 17779.
That's the one we need to take action on. We have a motion on the amendment and a second, sir. Members, without objection, we'll add this to the bill so we can discuss it in proper format. All in favor of adding the amendment indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your amendment is on the bill, sir. Now please explain your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this does, committee, this bill was brought to me in a collaboration with the National Independent Venue Association, the Music Venue Alliance of Nashville, and the Broadway Entertainment Association. What it does is that it defines what is a small music venue. In code, we actually don't have that defined. And then what it really does is it creates a fund under our ACD department that if and when we should ever have funds to help our small venues gain some dollars for whatever reason that may come here to support our small venues, unlike our big ones, Bridgestone, Ascend, all of those things. These are the small venues, so we can support that. It creates a fund within ECD to support those small venues. The amendment that we put on, there's a $6 million fiscal note. I know this is not finance. We're not asking for any appropriation. The amendment that we just put on will hopefully not create and take care of the fiscal note, where I won't be traveling, hopefully, to budget and finance. But that was the purpose of the amendment, Mr. Chairman. But that's the bill. Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Questions? Chairman Clemens, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sponsor. I appreciate the legislation. Can you just tell us what the intent of the funds are for? Because what we've had here in Nashville is a lot of large conglomerates and large corporations buy up all of our small live entertainment venues. And so rather than assisting those larger corporations, I would love to make sure we're helping the small businesses that own the smaller venues, and to the extent we can help protect those to be locally owned. Can you speak
You're
to
recognized,
that?
sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Clemens, thank you for that question, because that's exactly designed to do just that, to make sure that they know the state is behind them, that there is a fund created if they need upgrades, et cetera, to attract more folks to these small venues. That we think the small venues here in Nashville, certainly, but it also in Memphis, et cetera, that's very important that we have other venues that would attract a different type of sound than the Bridgestone Ascend. That's just a large venue. So yes, this is designed to where we can support those small businesses to make sure they can compete basically with the big boys and the big girls.
Follow up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is does this, just because of the size of the venue, is this limited to the size of the company that owns the venue is my concern. Rather than, if Live Nation or somebody's buying up all these venues, or AJ Capital or one of these companies, what is this just going to support the small business to the exclusion of the larger ones, or does this just support the small venue for everyone who owns it?
Sponsor recognized.
Very, very good question. I appreciate you doing that. And that's why I believe this is going through this committee. The environment, the economic community development will develop those rules, and then you all will approve that to make sure that the intent of this legislation is to apply to the small venues, so it wouldn't apply to the big guys in town. That's going to be up to the purview of this particular committee as ECD makes those rules.
Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sponsor, just looking over the bill here, some of the things I've not been able to find in this particular amendment that I have a copy of. Does this apply statewide?
You're recognized, sir.
Yes, it does.
Follow up, sir.
Yes, and I just want to make sure and get it on the records that the funds appropriated to do these grants and gifts and those type things are not just for live music or music venues. This will also include TV, film, and those type things.
Mr. Sponsor, you're recognized, but we're on the amendment. You might want to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment does rewrite the piece of legislation, but I don't believe it only applies to a live performance venue. So it wouldn't apply to something that would be broadcast on television. If I understood, Chairman, your question correctly.
Follow up, sir.
No, thank you.
And I'm sorry, we are on the bill as amended. Thank you. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess a little more clarification, that discrepancy between a small venue, because there are small venues here and other places in Tennessee that are great small venues. However, they are owned by Live Nation, which is a massive company. So are you saying Live Nation and groups like it would be included in this or would not? Because I would prefer that they would not. So.
You're recognized, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's the intent of the legislation. So when ECD, that you all pass this and becomes law, the intent of that is to apply to those small venues, but that's going to be subject to their rulemaking and then subject to your approval once it comes through this committee, whenever this becomes effective, which will be July 1, 2024. So I suspect when ECD creates this, they'll create rules surrounding that. Those will have to come through here and be approved for that purpose. And that's what I hope would happen, that it would be for small venues that wouldn't be owned by our large groups that would make the statute, in my opinion, pointless.
And you've let them know that. Let them know that,
Well,
right?
I'm letting them know that now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And along the lines of the questioning just a second ago about the small venues being protected, being the only ones that receive these funds, on the downstream side of that, if one of these small venues does take these dollars for, I don't know, a few years, 5 years, however long it is, and then they sell out to a bigger venue, is there any kind of clawback or anything to to bring back any of those proceeds.
You recognize, sponsor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think you're bringing up very good points for our ECD to consider if there is a small venue here in Nashville or a small business or a small venue in Knoxville that then sells out, whether or not there's this clause that needs to be, well, look, you received, I'm making this number up, $100,000 to be here for the next 5 years. As part of your deal, those got to be paid back to the general fund. I think that's a very good point, and I would hope they would think about that when they create these rules, if state dollars are used, and then that particular venue is gobbled up by a bigger company.
Follow up, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks, sponsor.
Representative Hemmer, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say thank you to the sponsor for bringing this. This is really important legislation. And for the committee to let you know that we did this in Nashville during COVID, and it actually saved a lot of venues and did a really good job. And so it kind of proved this concept out, and think we could do this, expand it statewide to help these really, really important parts of our culture survive and sustain throughout the years. Thank you.
Any other questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 2712 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Sponsor.
Mr. Chairman and committee, for your questions.
Next on our agenda, item number 4, House Bill 2625 by Chairman Boyd. We have a motion and a second. And Chairman Boyd, I believe you want to add an amendment to this bill. Do you have a drafting code, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, that drafting code is 017983.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? If not, let's add it to the bill. Without objection, we are voting to add amendment number 17983 to House Bill 2625. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill is as amended, sir. Please proceed with your explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, just to give you a little background. A few years ago, the federal government made a change that allowed institutions of higher learning to use a different accrediting agency than the geographical one that would be associated with where their school is located. This simply codifies this in state law and then clarifies that if they do choose, not if they do, any accrediting agency that they choose must be a federally recognized one. It also clarifies that any accredited agency shall not compel a public institution of higher learning to violate a state law or any requisite federal law that would be required. And then if they do, then the school could bring civil action against that accrediting agency. And that's basically what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have any questions of the sponsor? We do have a person to testify if there's any questions. Seeing none, we're voting on sending House Bill 2625 to, as amended, to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. If you wish to be recorded as a no, see the clerk. Members, we're going to take a bill out of order for this sponsor. Item number 18 on our calendar, House Bill 2269. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Boyd, you're recognized on the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. We had 6 amendments that were put on here that are traveling with it, but I believe they rolled 5 of them into one. Does that need to be adopted by this committee?
No, this committee is traveling with it.
Okay. Okay. So members, to give you a little background, the entire time I've been to the General Assembly, and this is my 7th year in here, we have every year contemplated and had conversations around certificate of need. And in 2019, a working group was formed, a bicameral working group that has spent the last few years meeting with various providers, hospitals, doctors' office groups, and to try to determine what would be the best way to unwind, whether it be gradual or whether it be a full repeal of certificate of need, and then what are the consequences and what has happened in other states. And so most of our work was done this last summer in the year 2023. The working group finished. We have generated a report that's available. You guys may have seen it. If you haven't, I can get you a copy from my office. And this bill is the culmination of that report. And what we're doing is it would be a gradual unwinding of certificate of need. And let me go into the details of that. And so essentially, we would put 5 different types of providers into a special category. That would be rehabilitation hospitals, home health agencies, hospice, methadone clinics, and nursing homes. They will stay under certificate of need permanently. We have seen in other states that even have done full repeals, that they decided that those particular groups are so unique because they're so closely regulated by CMS and then methadone clinics for obvious reasons that they need some, there needs to be some sort of hurdle to get into that line of work. And so those would stay permanently under certificate of need. But the other things that would phase out over the next few years, phase one would begin July the 1st of 2025, freestanding emergency room departments. If you wanted to do one of those without using a certificate of need, you would have to be respectful of a 10-mile boundary away from non-host hospitals. So any competing hospital, you couldn't get within 10 miles of one of those hospitals, and federal law requires that you stay within 35 miles of the host hospital. Any county in the state that does not have a licensed acute care hospital would be considered a non-CON county. So in those counties, you could build anything that you wanted. If it was a freestanding ED, you'd obviously have to respect the 10-mile rule that I just described. Then in December of 2025, burn units, neonatal intensive cares, ICF, IIDs, PET, and MRI would come out from under CON. The next phase would be December the 1st of 2027, ambulatory surgical centers, linear accelerators, and long-term care hospitals would come out from under CON. And then the last phase would be December the 1st of 2029, open heart surgery would come out. And so the only things that are really not mentioned in this bill that are left under CON, not permanently, but in this bill are cardiac cath, outpatient diagnostic clinics, acute care hospitals, and organ transplants. And any of the ones that do come out from under CON would be under the Health Facilities Commission for licensing. There would be a more robust licensing process than probably what you have seen in the past. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I will stop and take any questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the rule by our sponsor. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for clarification, Chairman Boyd, road, when we talk about miles, 10 miles, radius or road miles on that?
You're
And
recognized,
I don't
sir.
think it's going to make that much difference, but it wasn't specific here, specifically stated in the amendment, so I didn't know.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can double check on that, but we're thinking radius. I think there would be
Radius,
a
okay.
circle drawn around it. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman.
Other questions of our sponsor? Representative Hakeem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Boyd, would I be overstating it to say that in this instance, we split the baby?
You're a recognized sponsor.
We did, but I wouldn't say it's a 50-50 split. I'd say it's about a 75-25 split.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Sponsor, could you please go over the ones that are excluded from this particular bills? I think you named 5 of them. Can you do that for me?
You're recognized, sponsor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so there are 5 things that we agreed that have to stay under CON. And to my knowledge, they will always be under CON. And those are rehabilitation hospitals, home health care agencies, with the exception of EEOICPA and pediatrics. And the EEOICPA is that the radiation folks up in the Oak Ridge area. There's a special home health agency that deals with them. So, and then hospice, methadone clinics, and nursing homes. Those 5 will probably always be under certificate of need. They even in states that have done full repeal, they went back and put them back under CON. So we kind of recognize that they're unique in nature. The 4 things that I would like to see come out from under CON, and I think a lot of members on this committee would like to see come out from under CON, but through the negotiation with the hospital association and the various stakeholder groups, they are not contemplated in this bill. They are staying under CON, at least temporary, are cardiac catheter, outpatient diagnostic clinics, acute care hospitals, and organ transplants. Of course, those would be in the counties that still have CON, because if it is a county that does not have a licensed hospital, there will be no CON in those counties.
Follow up, sir. Chairman Clements, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Boyd. I know that this has been an interesting negotiation and debate. I'd hate to have been in the middle of this on both sides. So thank you for handling it. My question is, where did the 10 miles come from?
You're recognized, sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was brought to us. I think it was the Tennessee Hospital Association that came up with that. That was part of the negotiation as we contemplated taking freestanding emergency rooms out from under CON. And I think there was a lot of pushback. And of course, they already have the 35-mile distance that they have to remain to the host hospital. At first, we'd considered doing some sort of unique 15 miles away from 15 miles within 15 miles of the host hospital, 15 miles away from a neighboring hospital. And finally, we just scratched that and went with 10 miles. And that seemed to be the folks that are putting in freestanding emergency rooms were comfortable with that. And the Tennessee Hospital Association was comfortable with that. So that's how we came up with it.
Follow up, sir.
No, thank you.
Representative Balso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Boyd, my question deals with organ transplantation. Is that permanently going to be under CON, or is that coming out at some point?
You recognize sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not coming out in this bill on any of the future timelines. Organ transplant is so very unique that there are very few hospitals that are even involved in it. And so I would like to see it come out from under certificate of need at some point, and I believe that it will in the future, but that will be up to a future General Assembly to contemplate. But this bill doesn't
Follow up, sir.
address that.
Any further questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we're voting on sending House Bill 2269 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee.
Next on our agenda, item number 5, House Bill 902 by Chairman Hurt. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Hurt, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. House Bill 902 helps create a strategic alignment across education and the workforce to ensure the state has a clear understanding of how education is or is not meeting the needs of Tennessee's rapidly evolving economy. Specifically, the bill codifies access to and use of education to workforce data from the state's longitudinal data system. This bill supports and ensures Tennessee's vision for using data to improve and to monitor education investments. We need to improve access and use of this data to understand whether students are supported to be successful and to meet the needs of our state's economy. So basically, members, this is creating a data system that is public facing, that can be used across the board in order to make decisions based on our education to workforce investments. And with that, Mr. Chair, I believe we have guests available if needed, but I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, you heard an explanation of the bill. I will add is traveling with an amendment. Do we have any questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 902 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee.
Members, next on our agenda is House Bill 2248. Chair Lady Littleton is carrying that bill. We have a motion and a second. You recognize Chair Lady Littleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill authorizes the Department of Health to contract with a nonprofit organization whose principal office is in Tennessee, and composition is that a family physician, family medicine residents, and medical students to administer some of or all of the Family Medicine Student Loan Payment Program.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Representative Hakeem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard every word that was said, but I'm not clear on the meaning of the bill.
Chair Lady Littleton, would you like to expand a little bit?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year, the legislature passed a bill that was brought on behalf of the Tennessee Academy of Family Physicians, establishing a family medicine student loan repayment grant program. This bill allows the Department of Health to contract out some or all portions of the family medicine student loan repayment program to the Tennessee Academy of Family Physicians. House Bill 2248 is a cleanup bill for House Bill 1281 that was passed last year.
Representative Hakeem, follow up.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting to send House Bill 2248 to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Bill moves out to calendar and rules. Members, we're on item number 7, House Bill 2888 by Chairman Todd. Chairman Todd, I show your bill traveling without an amendment. Is that correct, sir? Oh, I'm sorry. It has an amendment on it. It's traveling with it. Okay,
That's
thank
correct,
you.
sir.
You're recognized for an explanation on your bill. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, sir. The amendment makes the bill. It's already on the bill, as we said. This is the different amendment than came out of the subcommittees. We realized there was some duplication on what was needed to be filed, as well as clarification for the Ethics Commission on what we were requiring. There was not anything substantive that changed this amendment, just those clarifications. In order to create an online registry of foreign agents, the Ethics Commission will be required to promulgate rules under the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. And the bill outlines some of the guidelines the commission will utilize when establishing those rules. And our main guideline is filing of registration statement that includes a name, business address, registrant's nationality, and a list of any and all partners and contractors in this state. And it requires basically that anyone representing foreign principals from countries of concern to register with the state by ways of the Ethics Commission. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation. Representative Hemmer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification, is it all countries or just the countries of concern you're wanting people to register?
You're recognized, sponsor.
Thank you. It's the countries of concern that came from the U.S. Department of the U.S. State Department. They are China, Russia, Iran, Syria, Cuba, Venezuela, and North Korea.
Follow up, sir.
Yes, sir. And I know there was a provision I spoke to you about last week about the look back period. It looks like it's requiring anybody that to previously register from a certain time period. I think it was the last 10-year look back. Is that still in the bill?
You recognize, sir.
Yes, sir, it is. And it's just a registration requirement.
Okay. I know, Mr. Chairman, if it'd be all right to speak with legal out of session about that.
Certainly. Without objection, we're out of session. Please frame your question for legal.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a chance to speak with legislative legal about that, and they expressed some constitutional concerns about requiring a look back period. It was in, I think it said 2000, I don't have it in front of me, 2004 to, anyway, so the last 10-year look back period. Is that according to your legal review, would that be some concerns with this?
You're recognized. Legal,
Thank you,
please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Garrett with the Office of Legal Services. Representative Hemmer, yes, this could be the retroactive look back, the retroactive application could be constitutionally suspect. I'm not aware whether the courts have articulated an exception that may apply under these circumstances, public policy exception or being in the best interest or of the state or public, but it could be, yes, constitutionally suspect. Potentially. I don't have the ability to discern what the courts may or may not decide on that, but.
Questions of legal while we're out of session? Representative Hakeem?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does this list have the opportunity to grow in size?
Oh, wait a minute. Is this on the bill or legal? You're asking, okay.
Legal, yeah.
Okay. You're recognized.
I guess from a constitutional perspective, does this bill have the opportunity to grow in size or diminish? And who determines that?
You're recognized, sir.
Again, Doug Garrett with the Office of Legal Services. Representative Hakeem, under the definition of country of concern, it lists those countries as cited by the sponsor. It also says, or any entity or country determined to be a foreign adversary pursuant to 15 of the Federal Code of Regs, Section 7.4. So if that list of foreign adversaries pursuant to that federal statute either increases or decreases, then the bill will adjust accordingly, or the application of the bill would be adjusted accordingly. It's based on the reference is to that federal site.
Follow up, sir.
Just point of clarity, it's a federal site that determines who the entities of concern are. Is that correct? I'm sorry, Mr. Attorney.
Doug Garrett again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that's correct, Representative Hakeem.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions of legal while we're out of session? Seeing none, without objection, we're going back into session. And do we have further questions of our sponsor? Representative Hemmer, you recognized?
Thank you. So just trying to get a couple real world examples. I know we have so much foreign direct investment in our state, and not wanting to catch anybody up willingly in this, like a site selection consultant. So for example, China purchases, nearly, or maybe over now $1 billion of cotton grown in West Tennessee. In that example, would they have to register in the state in order to purchase some of our agricultural exports?
You recognize sponsor?
This does not deal with anything about purchasing. This is strictly about representation. Who is lobbying on behalf of these particular governments or entities within those countries?
Follow up, sir.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of federal requirements for, if any foreign country is utilizing a lobbyist in this country, how is this different from what that is?
You recognize, sir?
This simply allows our state to have that registry of, those that are operating within our state boundaries, not just a master list of folks that might be lobbying on behalf of those interests countrywide. It's very specific to our state.
Additional follow-up? We have other questions of our sponsor. Seeing none. I'm sorry, do I have one? Seeing, Chairman Kumar, you recognize, sorry.
And I'm honored to be noticed. Thank you, Chairman Todd, for bringing this bill. We live in difficult times, especially in the sphere of foreign policy. And believe it or not, there are a lot of wars going on in our world. And underlying currents of our social media manipulation, as well as industrial espionage, those are real threats that are under the surface that we don't really notice. And I think we should do everything to create awareness and be vigilant about those things. I admire you for doing this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Kumar. Any other questions of our sponsor? The question has been called on the bill. Without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 288 to Finance Ways and Means, 2889 to Finance Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Bill moves out to Finance Ways and Means. If you wish to be recorded as a no, see the clerk. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Members, we're on item number 8 on our agenda, House Bill 628. But we have a motion and a second, and Chairman Leatherwood, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. This bill, House Bill 628, will help encourage providers to seek treatment for career fatigue without stigma. It establishes the Tennessee Wellness Act and enacts protections for physicians and osteopaths seeking help to address career fatigue. So the legislation is very tightly drawn to just cover career fatigue and workplace burnout. It would make communications and contact with a therapist confidential. Again, just regarding career fatigue. And with that, stand for questions. Appreciate your support.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we're voting on sending House Bill 628 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Calendar and Rules. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you.
Members, next on our agenda is item number 9, House Bill 2076 by Representative Martin. We have a motion and a second, sir. You are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, committee and chair. This bill came to me last summer from the Tennessee Medical Association, and we have been working diligently with it since. This involves medical recoupment, meaning insurance will come back and recoup money from medical providers. This statute has not been changed in over 20 years. So we have 5 main provisions in this aspect. One of those would be turning those 18 months down to 15 months that individuals, insurance companies can come back and recoup money. Number 2 would require health insurance entities to give up to a 30-day notice before they do so. Provides that future claim reimbursements to the healthcare provider may not be withheld until all appeals processes have been completed. Establishes that recoupment may only be for the overpayment amount, and that the insurance companies can no longer use extrapolation processes in that. I'm proud to say the TMA and the insurance agency agreed upon this language, and I humbly ask for a positive consideration.
Members, you've heard an explanation. We have Representative Hakeem. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear that I believe it was the insurance company could not hold the money until all of the, I guess, questions are cleared up. I guess I'm
Yes.
interpreting that to mean that the money would come prior to that being cleared up.
You recognize, sponsor?
Yes, that's correct. So in that process, if there's appeal process going on, they couldn't recoup those funds back until it's denied or until they prove that they didn't actually owe that money back. So
Okay.
you have to
Follow up,
hold it.
sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions of our sponsor? The question's been called. Without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 2076 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Calendar and Rules.
Thank you, committee and chair.
Next on our agenda, item number 10, House Bill 2118 by Chairman Fritz. You're recognized, sir. We have a motion and a second, and we do have an amendment to go on this bill. Chairman Fritz, do you have the amendment drafting code? Check your mic. Check your mic, sir.
18001. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. This does rewrite the bill. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Members, without objection, we're going to put the amendment on the bill for proper discussion. All in favor of adding Amendment 2118 to House Bill Amendment 18001 to House Bill 2118 indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Sir, you're recognized to explain your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. First, I'll reference this most recent amendment. It simply made some clarifying language. I had miswritten it so that it was the governing body of the city of Oak Ridge, and we changed it back to a member of government there. As amended, this full bill reconstitutes the State Energy Policy Advisory Council. In 2017, the General Assembly created the State Energy Policy Advisory Council to do basically three things: ensure secure, stable, and more predictable energy supply in Tennessee, to manage the use of energy resources, and to increase energy exploration, development, and production within our state. In May of 2023, Governor Lee issued Executive Order 101. This EO established a Nuclear Energy Advisory Council to look at regulatory, workforce, and educational barriers exist to the creation and expansion of nuclear energy facilities in Tennessee, and to identify opportunities for the state to harness existing and emerging technologies. This board is set to exist or sunset on November 1st of 2024. I will say here that this bill does nothing to require that sunset or change that. If the governor opted, he could certainly extend Executive Order 101. And I offer you this, Chairman and committee, for this reason. What I've attempted to do in this piece of legislation is to hybridize Governor Lee's Executive Order 101 and the State Energy Policy Advisory Council. This bill will result in 21 voting members. The council is configured to represent all of the energy stakeholders in Tennessee, ranging from energy producers and suppliers to energy users, including small businesses, residential customers, agricultural users, as well as government entities whose operations can impact or be impacted by energy production. With one non-voting member as a representative from the United States Department of Energy, other Oak Ridge site person, I think that this board is structured to position us to move into the future with an energy policy that makes Tennessee, again, a leader in this area. Currently, in many cases, we would have nationally political strategies that result in energy policies. What we've tried to do here is to develop a structure to this council so that we would have energy strategies to help equip our political strategies. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop, take any questions that y'all may have.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill as amended. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may have answered it in the end there. So did you say that there will be a member from the Federal Department of Energy and a member from something like ORNL, but they would not have a vote?
You're recognized, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question, Representative. There is a non-voting member from the Department of Energy, but the Oak Ridge National Lab designation, which is in the bill, is a voting member.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Hakeem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess just point of clarity for me. Let's, we have gas, we have electric, in different forms of energy. If one of those industries feel that they are being left out or pushed out or not given the same, I guess, ability to express themselves, what recourse would an entity like that have?
You recognize, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that question. It's a great one. What I've tried to do in the development of this is to make it very much all-inclusive for those subject matter experts that you mentioned, Representative. As a matter of fact, we have something included here. I think it's the first time we'll see it in Tennessee, but it's a crude oil pipeline or processing entity, which today the state of Tennessee and Memphis has about 1% of the nation's capacity to refine sweet crude oil. I think they're delivered there at Valero Oil by both barge and by pipeline. And I think that we took that approach to try to include those things that we don't normally think of about energy in the state of Tennessee to make sure that we are forward looking on those. To more directly answer your question, certainly we could come back and make modifications to this in the future if we saw the need to do so. What I have attempted to do here is I expect that we're going to experience somewhere in the next 10 to 15 years a nuclear renaissance with the small modular reactors, molten salt reactors, and the such. To build a bridge to get us to that point so that we have reliably can turn our lights on, I think it's going to require us to lean heavily on our natural gas capabilities in the state. But you'll also see that there's academic professionals included in this legislation and non-traditional sources of energy production, whether that's wind, solar, whether it is hydrogen production from cellulose to hydrogen conversion processes that are active in the state of Tennessee today. We wanted to make sure that we included all those because I think it's very important for us as we move on policy and legislation to be equipped with knowledge from those subject matter experts that can give us sound energy policy advice on how we should move things forward. I hope that helps your question, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing the bill. Thank you.
Any further questions of our sponsor? The question's been called on the bill. Without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 2118 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. If you wish to be recorded as a no, City
Thank you,
Clerk.
Chairman and Committee.
We're on item number 11 now, House Bill 1831. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Raper, you're recognized for an explanation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this does have an amendment, but I think it's travels
traveling
along
with
with it. Yes, sir. Okay, parents have a right to guide their students' education in conjunction with education agencies and to the best of their ability. This amendment, which we worked with the Board of Education, makes the bill and expands a parent's rights to elect to retain their child in K through 2 if, and this is an and statement, the student has a documented academic or behavioral delay and the parent guardian believes retention may benefit the student. The amendment also includes a request from the Department of Education to add clarifying language that the bill does not supersede the school's obligation to comply with any federal or state laws related to the disability and English language learners. This is consistent with our moves to empower families and ultimately respects the input of parents. At this time, I'll submit to any questions.
Members, we've heard the explanation, and Chairman Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe I have just 3 short questions. What is the behavioral issues? Is that defined in here?
You're recognized, sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just paraphrasing a educator's term, they would have an IEP, and then that they would have it documented as a the behavioral delays. So,
follow up, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe generally in legislation, if it refers to IEP, it states that as such in the legislation. But can parents not already hold their children back in any grade or no?
You recognize, sponsor. You recognize.
Thank you. No, sir, they can't. And especially when we're talking about a special ed situation, it's the determination of the IEP team, the M team that gathers, and it's a majority rule when it comes to that. So we're giving them the opportunity in K through 2 to have that opportunity to make that decision.
Follow up, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought this referred to K through 12, but it must be amended. And then is there a maximum number of times a parent can hold a child back? It's stated in this legislation?
You recognize, sponsor?
One. Yes, sir. One.
Follow up?
No.
Seeing none, do we have other questions? I'm sorry, Representative Johnson, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, so much of special education has literally, doesn't deal with behavior whatsoever. And a lot of times, some of the behaviors you see with some kids in special ed, what they desperately need is age-appropriate peers to model that correct behavior. And so holding them back can hold them back from getting those behaviors corrected. So is it just the parent's decision?
You recognize, sponsor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is in K through 2. Now, from that point on, it goes to the M team decision, and that will be final after K through 2.
Follow up?
I guess I think that the M team and the IEP team is really critical here to determine whether that behavior can be addressed with younger age peers. But thank you.
Any further questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 1831 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. If you wish to be recorded as a no with the clerk, please say the clerk. Members, we're now on item number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee.
House Bill 2942 by Towns, but being carried by Chairman Clemens. Chairman Clemens, you are recognized on House Bill 2942, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
We have a
Chairman.
motion and a second.
I appreciate it. My good colleagues having a hard time getting here by Government Operations Committee, so I'm happy to carry this bill for them. This bill would establish the state and local sales and use tax refund to be known as the Working Families Tax Credit for individuals meeting certain requirements for taxes paid on or after January 1st, 2024. It sets refund amounts for individuals based on certain criteria and is based on various other factors. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Members, do we have questions of the sponsor? Vice Chairman Reedy, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Clemens, looking at the notes, it says in reference to Senate Finance Ways and Means Committee, they had given them a negative recommendation.
You recognize, Chairman Clemens.
Well, those senators, I tell you, I would recommend we give it a positive recommendation.
And
Thank you.
follow up, sir.
Yeah, no, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Do we have additional questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we're voting on sending House Bill 2942 to Finance Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, the nays have it.
That's just rude.
It goes to Finance and Ways and Means with a negative recommendation. Members, we're on item number 13, House Bill 226 by Representative Love. We have a motion and a second, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
And I show your bill traveling with an amendment, so you don't need to explain.
Yes,
the
sir.
amendment.
The amendment is 015087.
It's on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, in 2016, the Maternal Mortality Review and Prevention Act was passed into legislation, into law. First report came out, and the second report is out now also. The members of that team included persons like the Commissioner of Health and licensed physicians. This particular piece of legislation simply adds 4 members appointed by the Commissioner of Health who are from community-based organizations and include 1 member from the Middle Tennessee Grand Division, 1 member from the Eastern Grand Division, and 2 from the Western Grand Division of the state. And that is all that we're doing, is adding 4 members to the commission.
Members, you heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Chairman Bolso, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Love, I'll ask the obvious question. Why is it that the Western Grand Division gets 2 appointees and the other Grand Divisions get just 1?
You recognize, sir.
Great question. The legislation lists out that for the Western Grand Division, one shall be from a municipality with a population of not less than 633,000, and then the other member is from a 68,200 population area. I think they're trying to make sure that those areas in the western part of the state get representation, considering the fact that they may have municipalities and counties that have different populations.
Follow up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we know which municipalities are referred to here in C1 and C2?
You're recognized, sir.
I don't know which one specifically would be. This was part of a drafting, I think, that was attempting to get those members in that area included in the conversation. I will say this, that when we were looking to bring the legislation in 2016, there was much conversation about the importance of it and the need. And I think when we get to community-based organizations, those folks who can really drill down to those neighborhoods and get folks involved, it's going to be vitally important.
Other questions of our sponsor? Chairman Reedy, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, just a second. Chairman Bolso, did you have follow-up?
One thing, Mr. Chairman, I did notice that in the legal summary, it does indicate that one member is going to be from Memphis, the other one is from Jackson. And let me just, if I could ask the sponsor that question, is there a particular reason that the committee is going to be reformed so that we've got one member from Memphis and one from Jackson?
You recognize, Mr. Sponsor?
I do think that when we look at the maternal mortality rates, those areas, I think, have higher rates of maternal mortality. And when we brought the bill in 2016, there was much conversation around the need to collect that data.
Vice Chair Reedy, you recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was answered. Thank you.
Chairman, pardon me, Representative Henry, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the sponsor for bringing this. Members haven't had a chance to read. Every year, the Department of Health puts out the maternal mortality task force recommendations and a study looking at all the utilization, various factors. It's actually one of the more comprehensive, in-depth looks at quite frankly, a big failure we have in our public health system here in Tennessee. So whatever we can do to improve upon that, I appreciate the sponsor looking into that.
Follow up, sir. Response? You recognize, Mr. Sponsor?
Yes, and I will say that we tried several years to bring this, and this is actually amending a bill that I brought in 2016. And to the representative's point, the first report, I think, yielded that 85% of the deaths could have been prevented if they had followed some of those guidelines that they then saw later on in the next report. So it is a vitally important report and work that they do.
Additional questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 2226 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. No. Ooh, that one's a tough one. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Calendar and Rules. If you wish to be recorded as a no, see the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Members, we're on item number 14, House Bill 2650 by Representative Helton Hayes, and that is at the request of the sponsor, rolled 1 week. Item number 15, House Bill 1731. We have a motion and a second by Representative McCalman, and you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I assume my amendment is traveling with it.
Yeah, that is correct, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, Chairman. Members, what this bill does, it creates a Motion Act, which stands for the Modernization of Towing, Immobilization, and Oversight and Normalization. Essentially, what that does is it relocates all language with regards to towing into one chapter. Currently, it's spread out throughout the code. It consolidates it into one chapter. It effectively makes it against the law to put a boot on somebody's vehicle unless it is a paid lot managed by employees of the company who owns that lot. What happened both here and in Memphis, there was a gentleman at a parking lot in Nashville, and he was out to dinner with his wife and runs out of time by about 10 minutes, goes out, he extends his time and goes back, finishes his meal, leaves without issue. 2 weeks later, he's back in that same parking lot, leaves after his meal, and comes out, finds that he's got plenty of time left on the clock, but yet there's a boot on his vehicle. When he calls the company, they said, "Oh, that's because we didn't get you 2 weeks ago." So another instance in Memphis, they were booting trucks, and when the truck driver pulled over, he ran inside to grab a Coke, came back out, found a boot on it. Tow truck driver says it's going to be $3,000 for us to take this boot off of your truck. He says, "Well, I don't have $3,000. So he says, "Well, we're going to tow your rig." So when the company calls the tow yard then proceeds to tell the company that it's going to be $15,000 to release said rig to the trucking company. What this does is it stops what has effectively become a racket with regards to towing and booting of these vehicles. It does put some price caps in place on what you can charge to take off a boot. It requires that if you do boot somebody, you have to show up within 45 minutes to take it off. It's not at your leisure. And lastly, it also creates a database for towing companies, law enforcement agencies, rental cars, and local municipalities to be able to track vehicles that have been towed within this state. And with that, I stand ready for questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Chair Lady, you're recognized. Chair Lady Rudder, sorry about that.
I have a scenario for you. I want you to tell me what would happen in this scenario. You're living in a condo, and they have parking that you pay for, but they have contracted with an outside company to patrol that garage to make sure that everybody there is parked legally, and they boot your car. How does it fall within this legislation?
That would effectively, sorry, Chairman.
You're recognized.
That would effectively be prohibited with this bill. The company that you are renting from, say at your condo, the property owner would have to have an employee that would do that. They couldn't contract with a third-party vendor to come boot your car.
Follow up.
Thank you.
Other questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting to send House Bill 1731 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman Committee.
Members, next on our list is item number 16, House Bill 2200 by the same sponsor. We have a motion and a second, sir. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Chairman and members again. House Bill 2200 will authorize a secure and identity verification system. One example would be the Amazon One technology, but there are other brands such as the Clear system, the Clear technology you see in our airports currently. Right now, Amazon One's being used in Bridgestone as well as Whole Food markets across the country and in airports for retail purchases. It is and I want to stress this is a permissive technology for both the customer and the merchant. And it's being used to introduce and update some of the language in our statutes requiring the physical presentation of a driver's license when purchasing a product that would require a driver's license be shown. For instance, if somebody wanted to buy a bottle of wine at a Whole Foods store, they could it's effectively utilize the Amazon One technology, which would be a virtual identification that's been verified versus having to show a physical copy of their ID. With that, I stand ready for questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. This ability to scan someone's facial features, will this be turned on at any time that anybody's checking out through the line?
Sponsor, I'm sorry.
No,
Sponsor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. So this technology is currently your palm print that gets scanned, and it would just be at checkout. And it doesn't. There is still a physical human looking to verify that this is indeed. So if Chairman Lafferty wants to go buy a 6-pack of beer or a bottle of wine at Whole Foods and he scans his hand, the employee will have a tablet that says, "Yep, this is Chairman Lafferty right here. He's good. He's okay to proceed with this purchase."
Follow up,
but
sir?
it's at the point of checkout.
So it's not a facial recognition. It's actually have to put your hand down on something and say, "This is who I am."
It's
Okay.
You recognized.
It's a scan of your palm. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Representative Hakeem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we saying that the palm print of our adult population is going to be in this system? Or what are we saying?
So the technology already exists. Thank you, Chairman. The technology already exists for if you want to go buy a candy bar in the Whole Foods market, you can scan your palm if you choose to utilize that technology. All this would do would be for you to allow, again, permissively for you to upload your driver's license. It's verified and checked, and you could go back and scan your palm if you wanted to buy a bottle of wine. You could check out in the same way as if you were buying a candy bar, and it would allow for a virtual check of your license versus a physical hard copy check.
You're recognized, sir.
Is there any concern in regards to, I'm gonna call it fake AI technology? Someone find a way of scanning that print and it's not you. You
Follow
what
up,
I'm
Mr. Sponsor.
I am not aware of any technology where you could falsify a palm print. And even with that, it's going to be you with your driver's license that pops up that says, yes, Representative Hakeem, this is Representative Hakeem right here. I see physically in front of me. Here's where it says he's okay to proceed virtually, and it's been verified and checked. He's okay to proceed with the purchase.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions of our sponsor? The question's been called on the bill. Without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 220 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. If you wish to be recorded as a no, see the clerk. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairman.
You let the chair correct that. That's House Bill 2200 to Calendar and Rules. And that brings us to item number 17. Mr. Vice Chair, you have the gavel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, item number 17, House Bill 1748 by Chairman Reagan. Can I get a motion? We've got a motion and a second. Chairman Reagan, you are recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. As introduced, this extends the Commission on Children and Youth to June 30th, 2028. It amends TCA Title 4, Chapter 29, Title 37, Chapter 3. With that, I stand ready to answer questions.
Question being called. All in favor of moving House Bill 1748 to Calendar and Rules signify by saying aye. Any opposition, nay. Bill moves out. Mr. Chairman, the gavel is yours, sir.
Thank you. Members, before we adjourn, a reminder, Monday will be in addition to the House committee meeting, there will be a joint Government Operations Committee meeting. You'll be notified electronically of the agenda and the time. With that, do we have any other business to come before the committee? We have a motion to adjourn, non-debatable. We are adjourned.